Hello, Anna, welcome back.
Hello, Robbie. Thank you.
Good to see you.
And good to see you too.
Great. So, this is your time. What would you like to talk about today?
During last session, I mentioned about my startup business.
Sure.
If you remember.
Of course.
And what I found is that I'm still kind of feeling a little lost about it. I want to make sure that I'm concentrating on the right things. So I need some help with sort of that side of my business. Yes, just generally making sure.
Great. Sure. So, I have a way of doing a kind of coaching in this way, a kind of entrepreneurship coaching. Is that something you'd like me to go over with you today?
Exactly that I would like entrepreneurial side of. Yes, please.
Okay, certainly. So, let me give you a little bit of explanation before I begin. This is a kind of mixture between coaching and mentoring. So at certain points I might sort of take my kind of coach hat off and then say I'm going to sort of give you some advice or something like that, or tell you a story. Is that all right?
Sure.
If you sort of say, because I don't want, coaching is very much kind of client-led. So if you felt at any point that you say, no, I get it, let's move on, I don't want to sort of slow you down. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So if you feel you have a principle, you can move on. Okay, great. It's a slightly different style of process because it's something I've created myself called the Leadership Matrix, and it's a visual thing. In fact, I have a copy of it here. I'll just present it to you to have a little look.
Okay. So what does that sort of...
Okay, well, in order to sort of explain what it means, I have firstly a kind of methodology to kind of explain what all these different little symbols mean and little characters. And then that'll take about 5 minutes. And then after that, we can begin the coaching and it'll make sense.
Sure.
So you're happy to sort of begin in that way? And what I'll do is, the other nice thing about the matrix is it gives the opportunity to sort of point to specific characters. So I can it's something we can almost share together.
Shall I hold it to you?
Yeah, if you like, you can hold it, or I might even hold it like this, if that
Yes.
sort of works. I don't know, it's probably almost best if you put it on your lap, just hold it, because I think that's more natural.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll do is I'll explain each one, and then you can tell me how it applies specifically to someone you know. So to begin with, can you bring to mind someone you know personally who you think is a good entrepreneur, a good kind of business person, who has their own business?
Yes. James comes to mind.
James.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so someone you know called James, great. So I'm going to just ask you to say, I'll explain what it means briefly and then you can tell me how it applies to James. So the term compass, that means the ability to pathfind, creating a culture within an organisation, having a sense of vision, kind of a compelling vision that people want to follow, a kind of a buzz and energy, a business that knows where it's going somewhere, sort of that long-term view. So tell me a little bit about the compass for James.
He seems to be able to see what the coming trends are, so he's got a really good vision for it. I would say that his compass is pretty strong. Sometimes he gets things slightly off, but then he's quite good getting back to the direction.
Great.
Yeah, I would say strong compass.
Super. The next one is boss. So it's not an idea of an aggressive energy, but is that sort of ability to kind of gently assert boundaries. They can say no.
Mm-hmm.
They have a sort of kind of, in some senses, grounded, almost warrior style energy where you know that where you stand with this person. They can look you in the eye, say no. They also can be kind of protective of their own staff or something like that. And they have a sense of agency, knowing what they want. So how is that with James?
I think he's quite protective in terms of his staff. He doesn't have a large team, but he's very good. In terms of, I think his aggressive energy sometimes comes out. Yes. So that's probably something he's not great at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when someone doesn't have this sometimes, or doesn't express it enough, it sometimes can come out, like they kind of hold back, and then it suddenly kind of explodes a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something which we call a shadow. So I'd call that like a bully. So energy that can come out sometimes.
I see.
What about a coach? The coach energy is this sense of engagement, looking, kind of encouraging people to work things out for themselves, encouraging a kind of culture of engagement and talking and decision making
within the
business. Yeah, it's but it's also a kind of general leadership kind of attribute.
Very good, very strong in that. I would say really strong. Really, he is kind of knowledgeable, but not very hands-on. He lets people, he empowers people actually, so that's quite good. So, strong coach.
Great.
Yes.
So, next column, we got the architect. So that would be that more mechanistic vision, where the leader, entrepreneur, is somebody who creates systems to deliver elegantly, consistently to the customers, etc. So it is that sort of, in some senses, the whole operation of the business and the way it's conceived.
So creating procedures and things like that.
Exactly.
Yes, pretty good. Procedures, very good actually. Procedures are working. It seems like he's got this ability to create procedures that work, and if they don't work, it tweaks. I have seen this. Yeah, he's pretty good at that. Yeah.
The next one, express train, is that sort of, get things done. So often, as we've seen in certainly large businesses or in government, things can take years to happen. Does he have that sort of make it happen energy?
Yes, definitely make it happen. I would say sometimes a bit too fast. There is a bit of too much of this express train in him at times.
Great.
I would say.
So for each one of these, there is a sort of shadow energy, and I'd say the shadow, in other words, is sort of like maybe the more troublesome or negative manifestation of each of these. I call that for the express train the steamroller, sort of that it's kind of over pushes.
Yes.
Next one is the alarm bell. The alarm bell is that kind of quality that can he differentiate between a genuine emergency mega problem as against the day-to-day stresses or kind of things that are mentioned in the press or whatever?
Yes, that's one of the things that he's really good at. Personally, I'm not, but we can talk about that later. But yes, he's very good at seeing what really matters and where the focus should go. And if something can go wrong, he can focus not only just his attention, but also his team's attention on it.
Correct.
Gets priority, which is quite good, I think that.
Super. And the next one along, on the next column, sales and marketing column, is radar. And I think you alluded to that a bit before. So, having a sense of the market, really knowing the kind of products and the competition and what's wanted, and then things shift. They can sort of. How is he in that way?
Well, he's really good, actually, stronger on sales and marketing than maybe the leadership. Yeah, actually, both good. Very good, yes. Radar side. Yes.
Super.
Okay, so I get the difference between leadership and sales and marketing.
Okay.
Radar and compass, yeah.
And the Fox, next one along. Yeah, I mean, it's maybe a little kind of provocative idea, but I think a good entrepreneur in some senses loves doing deals. They also in some senses have a sort of street smart quality. It's like no one's going to get one over on them that easily. And they can kind of smell people who are not good news, and they can also in some senses, if another fox meets them, they'll think, I'll find easier prey, that kind of thing. So would you say that he has this kind of fox energy?
Yes, definitely has got this fox energy whereby he can work out with whom to deal with, and what degree and not. Yes, and then or check out on people. That's
super. And the last one is friend. Friend, in a sense that, according to my model, good leader even if they are introverted, will make it kind of an effort to get to know people and connect with people. They'll tend to have good networks. They'll tend to have sort of loyal customers. They'll tend to have a kind of a whole group of people that really can help them. And sometimes a sense that they have like some loyal people who will stick with them through thick and thin. So would you say he has that kind of quality?
He's very good, but I'm slightly confused between coach and friend. So he's very good with friends. So is it like outside organization?
Can be anywhere.
Yes.
I think I'd say the difference is that a friend is somebody that you like, while a coach is a sort of almost a skill set of being able to listen and encourage people. I would say like young people today, they often like a sense of engagement, a sense of somebody listening to them. And that ability to listen and to watch and to notice is a kind of coach skill. Similar to a friend, but sort of different. The friend is more a matter that you share and you both talk and you create genuine kind of friendly connections.
So for example, if he sees the opportunity and he can create entrepreneurial connections with other businesses and things like that, that would be friend, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It's any sort of human engagement.
Human engagement, and he's charismatic and that kind of thing. That's
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
So being likable and not necessarily likable, but charismatic and probably have some kind of gravitas about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Right. So, and when you look at all these together, there is an idea of the conductor archetype, the final one, which is the idea of moving out of your own bias or your own preferences to doing the right thing. So we can talk a little bit about that later, but that's a kind of general model.
Okay.
So does that make sense to you, how
Sure.
what each one kind of means? Great. So now we can sort of switch to you.
I knew that was coming.
So the thing I like about this model is it kind of invites you as well to start looking, associating your own needs with something. So let's just forget the model for a moment and just talk, normally. So what are the topics you'd like to cover today?
The main issue for me is this marketing side and sales. So I still find this to be a struggle. Yes, to being able to actively market what I'm doing and my products.
Great. I mean, I think let's kind of look through it. So can we do a sort of similar exercise, but can you use those terminology to describe
Sure.
the kind of issue you said?
Yes, so looking at that. So shall I go through each of them or just the
Well,
one?
I
I
think
want
that
to
we'll
concentrate?
just concentrate on the one. So
Concentrate.
you specifically said sales and marketing, so you can start with any of
Yes.
those three. I mean,
I would say Fox is the one where I've got issues.
okay, so the Fox is a bit of an issue. You say you have issues with it.
I've got issues with Fox energy.
Okay.
I'm
So-
a very shy fox.
Okay. So what I think the way to bring this model to life a bit is to think of a specific issue that you face in your business at this time, rather than sort of general sense.
Okay.
So what is something specific that has come up for you?
Oh, it's just it seems like I am concentrating a lot on the architect. So I love creating processes. And express train. I've got this energy in me, so I like urgency to do things. But in terms of finding new opportunities which are reliable potentially in the future, maybe it's more of a friend as well. Sort of kind of to make sure that creating contacts with or looking for right opportunities and right contacts that will be useful for my business, that I find difficult. Or approaching people, proactively, that is quite difficult for me. I feel this sense of, what if I get rejected?
Sure.
And I find it difficult to do it in the first place, therefore. That's my analysis. Maybe there is something more to it.
No, I understand. And I mean, maybe we'll just sort of kind of jump around the model a bit. So let's go back to the compass.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say is your kind of that sense of direction? Do you have a sense of where you would like this business to go?
Yes, so I would like it to be clothing company for my age group and older ladies, who would like to dress stylishly. So that is that.
Right, and that's a bit like we covered in the last session in terms of that sort of in the coaching, when I asked you a question of where, you know, you had this sort of vision of where you wanted to go and saw yourself in the future.
Yes.
So that seems to me quite strong. In terms of your boss energy, do you feel able to assert your needs and express them?
Most of the times, I think I could work on that a bit more. Sometimes if my boss energy is met with stronger, especially male boss energy, I find it slightly intimidating or upsetting at times. And then that might come out not in the right way. So I either cut contacts or I sort of maybe not behave necessarily in the most helpful way and rational way.
Tell me a little bit about so how would you, I mean, you described before I think James, you said, when that he wasn't, that his boss energy sometimes would flip into this sort of bully, or, I mean, how would you describe what happens to you when you feel under this pressure?
Yes, sometimes I can flip into bully, but in the business context, I probably would disengage. So kind of cut contact, although contact could be useful. Or I would have conversation, and then after conversation is finished, I will say, oh, I wish I said something else, or I wish I did, you know, it's like retrospective, and I get angry at myself.
Sure. Well, I mean, I've got another shadow name, which I call it's a slightly playful name, but I call it the creep, being the shadow of the friend. And I mean that kind of creepy feeling that you have when you know, kind of reach out and you somehow feel kind of rejected or something like that. It's a very kind of natural, kind of universal feeling. So it's kind of just acknowledging that kind of comes out. So yeah, great. What about your coach?
I'm good. I'm really good as a coach. You know, in my corporate world as well, I had a lot of experience, and I'm a good manager. You know, with people, I'm good.
Super. And you've already said that you have a strong architect, and you like that sort of process.
Express trained too.
Express trained, so and there's a kind of interaction between the two, which is great.
My alarm bell is slightly overly active.
Okay.
I've got a lot of fears, kind of, what if something, you know, what is it? I go into kind of criticism maybe a bit too much. But yeah, I think it's slightly overly sensitive.
Yeah, great. Well, I mean, one of the things that I recommend, and I know it's something, you know, which I find helpful, is part of the thing of the alarm bell is that if you have a sensitivity, it means you probably have a good alarm bell, but it's then hard to sort of differentiate between a genuine crisis and then just being kind of really stressed. So, you know, are there any kind of things you could do to help you move into that conductor space, so you give yourself a bit of distance from the kind of strong emotion, and in some senses, you know, I mean, you know, businesses can be quite cut and thrust. You meet difficult people, and you can be disappointed, and people can let you down, and so on and so forth. So it's likely that this sort of thing will kind of trigger that, which is natural. But what could you do to sort of ensure that you kind of retain your energy?
I think the good thing here is not to react immediately. You may feel like the best thing you need to do is react, but like let yourself settle, not be in a panic state. That's what I found probably would be useful to, okay, so there is nothing, it's not like a life and death situation. You can really give yourself a few hours to bring your energy and calm yourself down, and then make the right decisions what to do. Is it really that, you know, worrying? Is it really that urgent? And also ask, you know, I've got, again, like people like James, I could talk to the coaches about it, or people who are good in the industry and friendly with me.
Sure.
Ask for advice. You may not take, well, I may not take an advice, but it's always good to have good advisors.
Absolutely, no, I agree fully. I mean, I can give you a little sort of personal story, if I can give you some personal disclosure on the alarm bell in terms of myself, it might be helpful. I mean, I suppose for me, I've been told by people I've worked with that I had a very good alarm bell, that I could sort of see, you know, like when the credit crunch came in 2009, I was kind of aware that it was happening quite early on and started making kind of changes early on, which helped sort of in business. So what I think I've learnt is that there are times where my own sensitivity can be a bit of a problem for me. So I can get upset sometimes in certain situations, social situations, family situations, and so forth. But I have this idea that at the same time I have a kind of conductor energy where even though if I'm upset, I'm still grounded at the same time. So I can be sort of rational about it and saying, is it just that I'm upset, or will this pass in 24 hours and it's not a really significant problem? And I think that that's it. It's that ability to sort of detach, but accept that if you have this, you have what I call the headless chicken, a kind of overstressed reaction.
Yes.
So if you have this quality, and you, as you said yourself, you're quite sensitive to this, that's a good thing. It just means you need to learn to manage it with, I don't know, meditation or yoga or breathing or even just being, as you say, taking advice from others or something like that. Anything to gain that detachment. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Yes, that is helpful.
Right. So talking a little bit further, we can go along the bottom line. In terms of your knowledge of the market, in terms of competitors and so forth.
I need to improve that as well because I'm a relatively newcomer, and also, and as I said, in previous sessions, I've spent a lot of time in corporate world as well. So it leaves very little time for me to be really proactive in this in this part. So I'd like to be better at it.
Great. So, setting a goal. Could you think of a few things you might do? So start with one. What's one thing you could do to learn more or engage more in your marketplace, your new marketplace?
So again, dedicate time to it, making sure that I've got, specific time, set it out in my calendar also.
Sure.
Look at what others do, that I like, the products of, look what they do. And again, set aside time for that.
Is there any way you could, one of the things that I personally believe, so if I can put on that mentor hat again, is that at some level it's quite useful to create a connection with people, peers in your industry, so that you actually, rather than just look at them online in a very detached way, you get to meet people. Sometimes it can be useful connections because you can sell their products so they can sell yours or whatever. But do you have any way that you could perhaps move on to that friend energy as well as the radar to be able to sort of connect with similar businesses so that you could kind of learn a few tips and tricks along the way?
That's a good idea, yes, to attend special conferences, etc., special events.
Yeah, no, that's always very helpful. Often one of the things I found about these, like events at these huge conference centres like Olympia, is so often the stall holders would get to know each other rather than the people who came for the exhibition.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's sometimes something kind of quite nice of that sort of marketplace, to kind of connect into it. So maybe that's something we can work on a bit more, like an action plan for that. I don't know if that would be helpful for you.
Yes, that would be really helpful, actually.
Great. So tell me a little bit about the Fox. This was something that we've kind of come back to it, but it was something you said you had some concerns about.
Yes, I'm going to say something which is, you said it will be probably identity level statement. I'm not very street smart. It's an identity level. Yes. So I don't find myself like being very street smart.
So that's a belief about yourself.
Yes.
And I'm curious, from a kind of coaching perspective, it's something we can look at in a bit more detail next time. But I'm curious, where did that come from? According to whom are you not street smart?
I don't know. I think in my family was considered to be not a good thing. To be street smart. I don't know. I think probably comes from parental figure. Yes, it was. The being very academic was encouraged, but being street smart wasn't so much valued.
So what about now? Now you're, embarking on the idea of success in business, without putting too much pressure on you. My argument with this model is you don't need to be brilliant at any of these things, but you certainly need to be reasonably good at all of them. What could you do? I mean, part of it, from what you're saying, is it's more a case of almost like you don't have permission to be street smart. Is that fair? Is that a bit of a strange thing to say?
No, I would like to be street smart.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So maybe next time we could look at using an NLP process to sort of kind of explore where that belief came from and if there's a way of changing that. Would that be helpful?
Yes.
Yeah, we probably don't have time to do that today, but that's certainly something we can work on next time if you like. Oftentimes, that there is something that happens in childhood where you set up a belief. And there's some kind of coaching techniques we can do to sort of shift that. So maybe that's something we certainly can look at, sure. Is there anything that when you think about James earlier, you said that he had a very good fox. Is that something that you admire in him, or is it something that you feel slightly unsettled about?
Well, I like it in him, but he's kind of, I think he's male and I'm female, so kind of almost it's maybe my belief about gender differences in that how people are like female versus, and sometimes in certain industries I find that it's more than that, but I find it just difficult for women. It's harder, yeah, maybe that's a belief which is not true, but you kind of really need to be twice, 3 times prominent or better than to be taken seriously at times.
Well, maybe we can kind of use it a little bit in a moment as a more practical example of how to use this model for yourself. But let's just go and visit the friend now briefly. So you mentioned that earlier, that you'd like to maybe engage with people a bit more, or you find that a bit challenging as well. What is your kind of sense of that?
With the people engaging.
Kind of reaching out, creating new contacts, that kind of thing.
Yes, I'm forcing myself to do that. Yeah.
So does that feel part of the same sort of system
It's whole sales and marketing is the area that, yes.
Okay. Well, look, I think in order to sort of, so you can, because my kind of plan for you is that you would take away this diagram and use it yourself, as a way, as sort of like almost like an internal boardroom. So you said have you got a specific issue at the moment in your business that we can discuss? So you're concerned about, I don't know, something a bit sort of smaller frame, like, you're having some products delivered, you're concerned about them, I don't know, or you need to advertise them, or...
Well, I'm working on my new collection. It's almost ready to be, and then I'm thinking, okay, shall I proactively put it on social media first? Okay, it's going to be on the website, obviously, but how much money should I spend on that? If that's the case, then what do I do offline? How do I expand it actually from, how do I start as a small business, basically that, and then expand.
Okay, so if we sort of if you sort of stand out of that thing and go into the conductor, I mean, what's the first thing that you need to achieve to expand a small business? Once you have a product to sell, then what's the next step?
Well, our product is ready. It's just make people aware that it exists.
So that would be on what column, that awareness?
Sales and that's
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about sales and marketing again, but just practically. Okay, so you have this new collection coming. What energy? Talk through each one of those 4. So the first one with radar. What do you need? What can the radar give you in this helping you launch your new collection?
So radar would help me. Well, in terms of radar, I need to identify which markets to target with specific ones. So would it be local first, and what age group, and how to,
Great. And how would the Fox help you in this, you know, in launching this collection?
Fox.
So, I mean, I think the Fox, in some senses, they understand the market. You know, in some senses, what does the person want? You know, putting yourself in the shoes of that particular person. Could you offer some discounts? It's that kind of energy of how can I make this exciting? How can I get somebody to
Maybe
engage
sell
with?
some initial discounts with the friends and family discounts, and then also initial discounts. Yeah.
Something like that. So,
Okay.
so in some senses, it's just sort of kind of, you know, kind of helping you kind of build that sort of thing of what you're going to, how you're going to operate a bit more. And then, as you say, with friends, you have, how would you engage your friends with this, as you said? Or your network, if you like.
Well, reach out to them to help me promote it.
Yeah,
basically.
great.
Yes, and don't feel ashamed about it to ask.
Super.
Yes.
So, is there, looking at it now, do you have a sort of slightly clearer sense of where you might want to go with this?
Yes.
Great. Okay, well, look, I mean, I think clearly we need to work on the sales and marketing side. Can I just give you a little bit of a few questions, and then maybe I can give you a little bit of feedback. So we're coming towards the end of the session now. Is there anything you'd like to say? What are the sort of key takeaways you've had today?
Yeah, well, it's a good structure, so that will be helpful for me. So if I can take this away, and then making sure that I am working on each of, I'm representing the right energies in my business, and I've got the right focus within my business, that would be it's helpful. And yes, so obviously need to work more on that, sales and marketing.
I suppose one point of slight confusion for me is, have you got a marketing plan? Is this something that you spent some time doing?
Yes.
Great. So for me then, the coaching where it can be kind of more useful is we've seemed to have identified something. So what would be your kind of key takeaway in terms of what we've identified today as sort of areas that you need to shift in or you'd like to improve upon?
On sales and marketing column, yes. All three probably within that: Radar, Fox and Friend.
Super.
Especially Radar and Fox, yes.
I suppose what I would say, if I can put on that mental hat for a moment, is, you know, when I ran a business, I found actually once I got over the initial fear of that connection, I think actually the architect also applies to sales and marketing. Because in some senses you're designing processes which are in some senses quite consistent, quite repetitive. Sales and marketing, you know, once you get the kind of images and ideas, instead of delivering something, you're sort of delivering messages. But ultimately, it's quite. I think you could possibly look at that archetype energy, architect energy, and sort of also kind of look at it like that. But I think there's something we need to possibly work on next time, which I think could help. So, anything else you'd like to say to feel we're complete with our session today?
No, just wanted to thank you for that. And then conductor within my business, so is it?
Okay, great. Well, we can spend a few more moments on that. So, I mean, I suppose the conductor is, you've established that you from your experience at work, you already have a sort of strong kind of leadership column. And you understand that, and you understand what it means, and you have that within you. Operations and finance you seem strong at, although there's something about the alarm bell to do with stress. And then the sales and marketing are the ones that you might want to develop. So when you go into conductor, it's kind of to make sure you do the right things. So if you're spending too much time developing procedures to deliver things to customers, but you don't have enough customers, it means you're not putting, your conductor sort of detaches yourself and saying, what does a business need? Not that I'm not playing to my strengths, but I'm playing to the business's needs.
That's very useful. Okay.
And also, you know, that point about stress. You know, if you notice yourself getting stressed, you also detach yourself saying, okay, when you start feeling stressed, saying, okay, I notice I'm stressed. What do I need to do about that? What do I need to do to take care of myself?
Okay, got it.
Super. So is there anything else you'd like to say to feel complete? with
No,
our
thank you
session
so
today?
much. Looking forward to the next one for this.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.